You are now in the Reality Capture Network.
All right, welcome to the Reality Capture Network. Today we are excited to jump in and talk about land surveying and technologies and business, a little bit of everything. And Shannon, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate you asking me to join this podcast. I've been following you since the inception, and it's exciting to see what you're doing with it. And I'm definitely honored to spend some time with you today.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We're excited as well. We're excited to continue expanding and helping educate people on geospatial technologies, on surveying, engineering, construction world. What's out there? What's coming up? What are some of the technologies available? What are some of the challenges? And continue to spread education. So again, we appreciate you jumping in. Before we get into talking about technologies or surveying, we like to introduce each of our guests and let them kind of tell us about your background a little bit. Where are you from? And this is, again, for our listeners, people that are going to watch this, they can get to know, who are you? How'd you get into the industry? Where are you at?
Sure. Yeah. So how did I get here? How did I become a surveyor? Where did I go wrong? I know. So for me, I'm one of 11 children. I'm a son of a civil engineer, a pre-82 civil in California, so you could actually survey as well. And grew up kind of around the business. We moved a lot when I was a child. My dad was kind of escalating through the ranks in public works in different areas, so we kind of moved throughout California, North Carolina, Las Vegas, and wound up in Southern California. And so one of the stories I kind of tell about how I kind of got in the business really was through watching what my dad was doing. And so when I would go in as a child, my dad would take me in, in the summertime for a day or two to show me what he did. And we would go out and we would survey as he was trying to show me how they were designing something, right? So he's trying to get me to be an engineer, and I was looking at all the survey stuff.
Yeah.
And that really interested me. And when I was 17, I went into the Army. I actually went into the Nevada National Guard. Originally was in an armory unit, and then we moved, and I went to an artillery unit. So one of the things with artillery is that's very heavily, it's surveying. You have to lay out the artillery pieces. You have to calculate, where they're at, and calculate where the rounds are going. And so I went to fire direction control school and artillery school, and then had a lot of hands-on experience with some pretty low-grade instruments, and plus or minus, when we got a kill radius 80 meters. You don't have to be this precise, right?
Yeah.
But they got a lot of exposure to map reading, and just really took to it. When I was in first couple of years, I was in the Guard. I did a lot of active duty time doing special training, and then between that, I would work construction as I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I got married pretty young. My wife and I had our first daughter. I was 20, right at the age of 20, and we wound up having actually 4 kids, and we have 3 grandkids. But as I was realizing that, all right, I'm part-time soldier, I'm a construction guy, I've got a daughter, I think I'm pretty much a loser. I think I need to apply myself here. So I actually committed to college and using the GI Bill. And I didn't get to this, it wasn't like I was I didn't really set the world on fire in high school. I had interest in auto shop and welding and sports.
Mm-hmm.
And matter of fact, I failed algebra in high school. And it was really kind of about a necessity when I started applying myself in junior college and actually studying. I thought, I actually do have a natural aptitude for math. But I think it's really important to point out, really, for anybody, that I think there's kind of a misconception about math and what we do. And people think, well, I'm not good at math. Well, the one thing I'll say about math compared to really any of the disciplines is that, it's based off of proven mathematical theory. And so if you go through the process of actually applying, studying, and going through it, it's easier than you think if you apply yourself to it. And, I have 4 kids, and it seems like it's lost on them when I explain it. So hopefully they discover the journey at some point as well. But I started getting, I guess, more confidence, and I started changing my major. And so when I moved my family to Fresno because it was it was the cheapest place in California. When I looked at the cost of living and the cost for college, I could get the most bang for my buck for the GI Bill. And so I transferred from Fresno City College into Fresno State as a civil engineering major. Didn't even know they had a survey program. And first semester there was a civil engineering major that we had to take 2 survey classes. And I just sold me. I just really, I started looking at, the classes and the way the program was set up and talking with the instructors. And I really never officially, I was technically, I guess, a civil engineering major for a semester, but really I was surveying all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And so took me 6 years to get my bachelor's degree because I was a bonehead in high school, but graduated from Fresno State in 1996. And worked on the private side. I got licensed in '99. First time I could take the exam, I took it, passed it, studied my butt off like most people do.
Awesome.
And progressed through the ranks. Being a little bit older, I mean, I was in my late 20s by the time I graduated, so I was, I guess, trying to make up a little bit of lost time. And so I've been primarily in management positions pretty early on, and just progressing. I mean, I spent the first part of my career working for companies, working for small, worked for very large publicly traded engineering firm more recently for a 10-year period. Learned a lot about the business. Went to work for a smaller disabled veteran business enterprise for a couple of years as the chief operating officer. Learned some more about the business. And then when I really had the opportunity, actually, because I was in artillery, one of the unfortunate things, I actually have a hearing loss and tinnitus. And so I actually qualified as a disabled veteran as well. And so I can't say that's the only reason. I mean, it does give you opportunities. I'm not going to lie. But really, I think I had spending my entire career working for other people. I was forming a lot of opinions about the way I thought business should work.
Yeah.
And I got to the point where, you realize, okay, well, I think it's time I put my money where my mouth is. I do have a lot of opinions about this. And I see, being a Gen Xer, or kind of stuck between, I mean, to talk about being like the forgotten generation, between the boomers and the millennials, that, I could objectively look and say, the industry is changing. We're struggling finding people. We're struggling finding interest. But I always look at all these things as there's opportunity that we can embrace mobile workforce. We can find ways to basically onboard people that have kind of the right work ethic and character that want to give them an opportunity, but give them the tools they need so they can be successful. And so that's really what compelled me into jumping into business a year ago.
Yeah.
I was like, couldn't look through like my magic 8 ball and see that we're going to be faced with a global pandemic, and then everything we're facing now, we're dealing with really a lot of people upset for obvious reasons, and it has that has an impact, but you don't look at it, but again, there's opportunity.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks for the overview. It's funny hearing your story, the similarities that I find in my story. Getting married at a younger age. Our fourth baby is due here actually in the next 2 weeks. So we'll be at 4 kids. And I think, most people in the surveying industry, I don't know if I've ever talked to someone in the survey industry that didn't first get their experience by, well, my dad worked in surveying and I got a little exposure young, or I needed a summer job and I was on a field crew. That's been almost the response from any surveyor I've ever talked to. It wasn't, I knew going into it, that was what I wanted to pursue. It was like you somehow got pulled in and a little bit exposed to it, and then you ended up finding a path down that route.
Yeah, if you start polling people, you're going to find about 85% of them either have somebody in their family that was a surveyor or there was a military experience. Yeah. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And it's indicative of trying to find people to get interested in going into the survey programs, right? I think that, I kind of riffed on this quite a bit, that, a lot of us belong here in California, the California Land Surveyors Association. And they provide the charter of the organization is to really look after, I always can't say the protection is probably not appropriate, but really it's just looking after the general public and the policies and procedures that, that impact surveying and making sure that they're upholding the professionalism of survey.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they would be much better served to take half of what they bring in and just use that towards a marketing campaign directed at finding, the next generation of engaging in outreach, to gain some interest, because there's a lot of opportunity and people just don't know about it.
There is. And I think we'll get into talking about this a little bit more, but I think that's where a lot of the technologies we look at nowadays, we've seen a slower adoption of new technology and changes of process by surveyors and survey companies, which there's all these new technologies out there that people can adopt. And, some of them are, and some of them are catching on to it, but initially they're kind of slower to adoption, where that's one of those drivers that, one, it helps your business, it creates a new service, it's innovative. And that's also a big driver, I think, that could bring younger generation and interest in, is instead of saying, hey, go to college and come into surveying, and you're going to be out in the heat holding this, pole. This is the only thing we do, topos. And, some of the traditional surveying isn't what you call attractive. It's necessary and it's a great job, but finding ways also to take the opportunity to say, look at these like three-dimensional data spaces and virtual tours, and what about drones, and like that's what lights people's eyes up, and the fact that those can be married now and utilized together, I think is a great way to gain more interest in the surveying realm as well. Which you may know the statistics better than I do, but from what I've heard, the drop-off rate of how many professional land surveyors are retiring versus the entry level, or how many new licenses are being applied, I've heard is drastic.
Yeah, it's it's a changing of a guard from generations, right? Those baby boomers are exiting out, retirement, and hopefully it's retirement. The next generation is not necessarily ushering in the next generation of people, and it is. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head as well. I mean, we've been talking about this as surveyors for years, and seeing it firsthand. And I'm involved with Fresno State. I'm involved with to do some work here for San Diego Community College, helping with their steering committee, and just trying to get people to come in and generate interest with it. But I mean, you hit it right on the head. It's what you have to do is that you have to basically use these emerging technologies to then kind of cast a wide net to get people in and get them involved with the programs, and we need them. I mean, I always make the analogy with surveying, the way people need to look at it. It's and not to be crude about it, but it's kind of dumb guy, smart guy, right? So if you want to be a guy that basically put your stake in the sand, like, I know how to be a chainman, I'm a good chainman, and that's your decision that you make, and you decide not to progress, well, then you're going to work your way out of a job pretty quickly, right? If you're going to be the smart guy, and guy is by the way, it doesn't matter if you're a male or female, a guy's a guy. You're choosing to basically commit to progressing and learning new things. And by doing that, you're always going to have a job and great opportunity, because as the new technologies come aboard, you'll embrace them. You'll have an inquisitive component to you that you're constantly learning. I mean, that's the thing. You talk about, AI, machine learning, all these different things as they're coming together. It still takes, and it's going to take for quite some time, people to implement and embrace those technologies. And it's going to be, quite frankly, the next generation that we can get them involved with it. And you imagine, I mean, you guys see it on kind of scanning data capture, drone capture. I mean, really what's happening is that, and this has happened for quite some time, as the technology is allowing us to capture more dense data faster with a high level of accuracy, it means less time in the field to collect it, but more time in the office to basically go through and parse it out, break it off into different professions that can use it. I really see us kind of evolving more as geospatial data managers and helping that process. So
and I think a lot of people are afraid new technology, like you said, because certain processes in the field are getting faster. They're afraid to implement it because they think it's going to replace their job. And I think that the mindset needs to change to, this technology isn't going to replace my job, it's going to improve my job. Instead of being out doing single shot topos for 5 days, like, you might do a drone and some scanning and some topo supplemental shots. It might take you 1 or 2 days instead of 5, but now we can just do more projects, or now we can focus on how to integrate even further than that. Instead of just creating the topo, let's do some extra aerial while we're there. Let's attach sensors, let's capture additional types of data, and then maybe learn how to do an office portion. So finding ways to make the technology not replace a job, but improve it. And then what else can you do beyond that with it?
Oh yeah. It was, I guess it was over 21 years ago, I got involved with a machine control project. Trimble just came out with their first machine control. They weren't finding anybody to sell it to. And I actually approached Trimble and said, hey, look, I got an idea. I think what's missing with machine control is that you're trying to sell it to the contractors. The contractors don't know GPS. They don't know DTMs. What it really needs, you need a surveyor in there that can help, in that process, that can, generate the DTM, do the calibrations, and then help them with the GPS components of the positioning, and partner with a contractor who knows how to operate the equipment to make this work.
Yeah.
And so I got one of the first units they had. I got a contractor lined up, and we did some test projects. And I mean, the technology is technology, right? It worked. At that time they didn't have it on the grader. This is just on bulldozers. Um, but it was, it worked, and I was involved in the process. And so it was me, like, being, I don't know, 30 years old at the time, or 29, something like that. I go and I walk in front of a CLSA meeting, and I present to them what we're working on, what we're looking at. And I mean, they're ready to grab the pitchforks and run me out of there. I mean, they're calling me a heretic, and they're like, "What? You're destroying the profession. You're giving the construction staking to the contractors. How dare you?" And I said, "Look, I go, you're trying to kill the messenger here." I said, "You're not going to stay away from technology." I said,
Yeah.
I'm discussing this with you to get you guys involved in the process so that you don't pass up on this, because what you do is needed. Embrace it and work with it.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in the same boat even now. I'm at the end of my 20s. I'm still the younger generation. I'm fully immersed in all the new technologies, and I'm playing middleman. I came out of the land surveying industry, growing up with a land surveyor as a father. That was my job, learning to do topos, learning to run total stations, learning to do CAD drafting and such. And so I can see both sides of what can the new technology do and why is land surveying still important. And I try to bring the two together. And there's that difficulty of there's so many industries that can benefit from the scanning and the drones and that technology. And there's also such a benefit to still integrating surveying to that process. And sometimes it's completely necessary to keep it accurate. And so many people don't know that. But if surveyors, push the technology away and don't adopt it, somebody has to take that technology and apply it, which then it forces other people to adopt those technologies. And then you still have the surveyor saying, "Hey, you shouldn't be scanning because that's doing surveying." And it's like, well, you can't have both. You got to jump in and adopt it and push it and learn it if you don't want other people doing it. So I think that's even a difficult thing to manage. Some states are starting to require that you have a surveyor involved in certain portions. Some aren't. It's a big topic of which of these technologies is land surveying.
And to kind of go back, we talked about people coming in, they're not keeping pace, right, with who's exiting out, and they're not keeping pace with the future demand. And so supply and demand, what's going to happen if we're not able to create or attract professionals come in, the work will go away. It'll go to civil engineering, it'll go to whoever, right? I mean, the work has to be done. If we can't provide, you can go on that job protectionist component of it, and you can kind of hide behind trying to enact legislation. You're just forestalling the inevitable. And you're not you're not embracing, and you're not answering the call, right? So I think that's exactly what comes into play. The other thing you hit on too, that I think about surveying, and really we just call it really more geospatial. I think is what I think where most of us are kind of adopting it, that we're the middle child. And so for those of us who are from big families or more than 3 kids, right, 2 or 3 or more, the middle child is kind of the peacemaker, right? These are the oldest ones kind of pushing, or depending on where you're at, the rebel or anything else. But as surveyors, the geospatial professionals, we are the middle child, right? We're tasked with with collecting topos or boundaries, putting in a digestible component, getting it to engineers so they can do project design. And when the project design is done, let's say we're doing the staking and helping that process, we're involved with getting what's designed to the contractor. Again, we're in between that as well. And it's, we do have, and I can't say it's a peacemaker, but the value add that we have is that we're interpreting and going between those components, and it's just necessary what we do. I mean, we help get the data that they need to design, and then we help get it conveyed out so that they can actually build these jobs. So
yeah. Oh man, so much good to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about, so you started your new company. What is your guys' focus as far as services and industries go? Kind of talk a little bit about you guys.
Yeah, sure. So the focus, so I started my business at the ripe old age of 50, right? So it's my midlife crisis, I guess. So one of the benefits for having the experience I have is that there's really not any job in surveying that I guess scares me, or I haven't seen, or we don't have the ability to tackle, but we just don't have a whole lot of time to get there, right?
Sure.
So we need to get the business going and help prepare the next generation and get going. So the focus of the business, we have our surveying, kind of traditional land surveying work. We have GIS focus as well. And then we have a professional consulting component. And so, in surveying, we're doing primarily focused around public works and public utilities. That's we just have a lot of opportunity in that realm. So, I am a service-able veteran, and so that just gives us some contracting preferences. And so for us to focus the funnel, right, to say what opportunities do we want to tackle, and quite frankly, the last, I'd say majority of my profession, we all got involved in land development at one point, but I've been working on kind of big public works and utility projects, and so that's really our focus, right? So working with the California public utility companies, working for LA Metro and Department of General Services and different municipalities, and doing TOPA surveys, boundary surveys, plats and legals, scanning.
Yep.
We've got, we're doing drone work where appropriate, so aerial mapping. And then on the GIS side, there's a lot of opportunity we have with the utilities doing just various different tasks, helping them with a lot of regulatory compliance issues. Big one these days is fire risk mitigation. So we're working with some clients doing different projects of fire risk mitigation. So again, in the GIS thing that we do, I mean, we're not full board GIS team, but again, the opportunity, kind of like I think you probably find like with Revit and other things, that that there's taking LiDAR, like these big LiDAR data sets and images, and also getting data from, let's say, power poles, and getting it in an ingestible format that they can take into their ArcGIS systems. That's kind of work that we're doing on that side.
Yeah.
And then the professional consulting. So one of the things we bring with us as well, and one of the experiences that we have collectively, is that we ran some big programs. And so we're working with some clients to help them develop CAD standards, process and procedure for anything from kind of base mapping to as-built, and just helping them as a value add to help adapt, quite frankly, to a lot of technologies, and get better interoperability between kind of the way they're doing things, and get it so they can ingest it into their GIS systems.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So that's kind of a nutshell what we're focused on.
Awesome. Maybe while we're in there then, and you mentioned a couple technologies, let's go down the list and hit on some of the new technologies, and just, whether you're using them already or you're not. And then, the ones that you are using, maybe we can talk a little bit about applications you see and challenges. So let's start with terrestrial laser scanning. So you're obviously already aware of it. You've seen some application. Tell us your experience with it.
Yeah. So we run the Trimble SX10, which is a scanning total station, right? So our normal workflow, if we're doing a design survey, or let's say an ALTA or something like that, is that we're doing both automated line work, but we're also doing scans of the areas, and we're doing panoramic terrestrial photography with it as well. So the reason why we're doing it in that fashion is that we're still finding that there's certain automated line work that's faster for us to collect, kind of using automated line work commands in the field. Doing it that way than using the scan data to extract data. So on a topo, I'll use this as an example, is that we're using the machine learning tools that right now that are available within the TBC and the scan module to extract poles, trees, and signs. Right, so those are ones we don't have to traditionally survey anymore, because we're actually we can go through and extract that data. We're still finding that it's still pretty, it's probably more a better workflow to pick up a lot of the normal line work and process it that way. But then, we have in the can, right, we have, because of this workflow, and we're finding that we had our scope, we picked up that data, and what happens, I'd say probably at least half the time, hey, can you guys pick up a little more data? Well, we used to have to mobilize a crew to go do that, right?
Yep.
Now we have that data kind of in the can, and hopefully, we'll find a lot of times we do have it, a lot of times we don't, but
yeah,
where we do, we can extract it out. It's a value add we can provide to our clients. And just having that, also having additional QC tools with it too, to have the images and the scan with the line work. I mean, we're finding that the quality is improving greatly, and so it's just a further improvement of how we approach that work, and then combine that with a drone, where we can fly a drone. So now our work product, and we were talking about this earlier, essentially the same amount of time or less time, we're able to now collect. We can do some conventional topo, we can scan, we can do panoramic imagery, and we can fly a drone.
Yeah.
All that data, we can process it together. We can deliver it to our client depending on what we're doing, right? We can give them, we also are giving them a high resolution color ortho photo of what used to be kind of a 10-acre thing, was where you have to kind of cut it off, where you have to mobilize a plane, right, to pick it up. Well, now, I mean, we're only limited by airspace restrictions, right?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and when if your crew's already licensed and it's just another tool to have in your truck, I mean, the additional time to jump out and capture a nice updated photo is so small. I think, as long as airspace and things like that are right. I mean, I think every survey company should be doing that. We've talked with some others. They're like, even if we don't use it, it's such a short amount of time. We fly every single project, just as an additional.
The cost is next to nothing for it. I mean, we pay to have our people take we compensate for the exam, for the FAA Part 107, and it's not a cost prohibitive item. But one of the things I do want to hit on, Matt, that we talk about technology and you talk about tools in the tool chest. The thing I always say about technology, and I learned this early on, is that technology will never replace good survey practice and procedure, right? And I've seen it time and time again. A new technology comes out, and we as surveyors lose our collective minds, and we start doing stuff that we would never do, like on I guess when GPS came out, people are all out there, basically RTKing things that are 10 miles apart and staking them out, and just, there's things where it's appropriate to do it, how you implement it. And so what technology we implement, I think the other thing to the same extent with, the practice and procedure is that, we haven't seen a technology that necessarily replaces everything before, right? It's just another tool in the toolbox that enables us to maybe collect it faster, or one of the things we're saying with the technology is it allows us to greatly improve safety. Right? Because we've all the surveyors that I guess now I'm an old surveyor spending time on the freeways, on an active freeway or roadway, playing Frogger, right?
That's one of the examples I use anytime I talk to someone about scanning. I use the example of surveying. I'm like, okay, right now, traditional surveying, you have to either take the time and cost and permits and go stand out in the middle of the road and, hope you don't get hit, which actually happens.
Yeah.
Versus what happens if you now integrate scanning and you can do it from the sidewalk, even while cars are driving by, because it captures so much data. You're still getting the ground, do a couple different setups so you get different angles, and you didn't have to close the lane. You didn't have to stand on the road. And then even for vertical services, we've done work in oil and gas, and you think about these tanks that are 50 feet tall and they need to measure a nozzle up on the side. The typical process is the same. It's approvals and permits and ordering a lift and getting it delivered and a tie-off procedures and all these things to measure something up on the side. And still there's risk. You're bringing equipment in. You could hit some valve. Someone could fall off. There's so many different things. Versus now you can stand right next to that tank on the ground, do a scan, measure anything on that entire surface vertically. Safety is a huge aspect of integration of some of the new technologies.
It is, and I really personally challenge really every kind of surveyor, people that are engaged in the profession, to really utilize safety effectively. I mean, we talked earlier about getting people to adopt new technology, right? And it's, people, it's the old horse to the barn, right? They'll kind of keep doing the same thing they're doing before and not embrace technology. The one thing I've seen in my profession where I've been able to take kind of those old horses to the barn and get them to gravitate to new technology was through safety. Right, getting them engaged in the process. I had like my safety story. I've got plenty of bad safety stories, but the one positive safety story that I really talk about a lot was that I had a project where I did the job. I'm sitting in the office and I'm Google Earthing what I think it's going to take. Crew gets out to the field in some crazy intersection. Traffic is out of control. They called me up and they're like, "Hey man, I don't feel comfortable going out there." Right. My reaction at that time was like, "Come on, you guys, a bunch of babies, get out there and survey," And at that time, and I'll mention the name, I worked for Jacobs Engineering, and they had the safety, and it came through an incident at Texas City where I think 8 employees were killed by an explosion, or a place they didn't need to be, drastically changed the culture of the company, and they were forcing it down my throat. So I thought, okay, well, I can't tell these guys to tough it out and just go out there. I have to take action. And so I didn't have the budget for it. I called my boss and said, "Hey, look, I don't have the budget for this." The guy's called on safe. He goes, "Stop, it's over there." He goes, "Get traffic control out there, do whatever you need to do." Right. So I went ahead and on our dime paid for traffic control, sent them out there. And and not to get too long-winded about this, but what had happened, what I found was that, so surveyors work with traffic control, they were able to get the work done. That was great. It was done safely, right? And the next thing I saw, which was really truly magical, is they said, hey, we think if we can mobile scan this area, we think we can do X, Y, and Z. What do you think about that? Well, so now I was getting ideas about technologies that improve safety, but I was tackling, what I found through the safety process is that we basically killed, probably not a good analogy, two birds with one stone, but, so now we have the office field conflict, right? Which is, people in the office don't know what's going on, people in the field are, lazy, whatever, right? That conflict, it's cats and dogs, right? That's the first time I got those two things to marry together, and we were actually communicating, and we came in and we were getting ideas from the field. Like when somebody, when they suggest a technology, that's when you got to pounce, right? Because they're like, okay, well, now you're suggesting it. Now there's my opportunity, right? Now you're not fighting me on it. And so I saw that for the first time in my career. I thought, wow, now this is really kind of happening at an organic level. And we use safety to get it going. That was a common language that we had to embrace the technology to get it moving forward. People thinking differently. So
yeah. I mean, it's one of those aspects that everybody agrees on, right? You don't have to try to justify to the higher ups like, hey, this technology is going to be a little more innovative, or we can collect this, a little faster, or okay, but how much faster? And is it really worth when it's safety involved? You're like, so many industries now, it's not like back, 30, 40, however long ago. Safety now is one of the main focuses. Yeah. I mean, we hear statistics out there of, especially in hazardous scenarios, being in the middle of the road is definitely one, but even more so we see with like chemical plants and oil and gas facilities and public utilities and anywhere with the higher risk environment that people are in all the time. If you can find a way to use a technology to reduce risk, to keep people out of those hazardous areas, just in the potential that something blows up, what if there was no one in the facility because they could all be working virtually, or, less people in the area? Those companies totally are on board now with risk mitigation, and they understand the benefits.
Yeah. And it's, again, it's an opportunity for you to strengthen your team, strengthen your relationships. At the end of the day, I mean, like you can be cross with people and everything else. 99.999% of us want, each other to come to work safely, go home safely, and get, like we want that to happen.
Yeah.
That's really what we want. We don't want harm to come to anybody that we're associated with or in the general public, right?
Yeah.
So, that's a common ground that, so to me, this whole thing kind of comes full circle about embracing technology and getting people involved. And, again, that's, you think about it, was most unappealing to you was like bacon in the hot sun in the middle of the intersection, right? It's hard. It's a tough sell, right?
Yeah. Man, when I got started, most of my surveying when I got started was in Bakersfield, California, where summer is 110 degrees, working in the oil fields, who had just recently implemented FR-rated clothing, which is thick, long sleeve pants, boots. So you're just, you're dying out there. So thinking about, oh man, we can use a technology to reduce the time that we have to be standing out there, is awesome.
Oh yeah. Well, for me, I'm a pasty Irishman. I started surveying in Las Vegas. I surveyed in Fresno, Needles, California, Barstow, Sacramento. I mean, all the garden spots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I still am a surveyor.
There you go.
Yeah.
So not that we have to go too in depth, but maybe still on the subject of laser scanning. So you guys are seeing some application and using it for capturing some extra data, doing topos, just to hear where you guys are with it, or have gone to, or see, what are some other applications that you've either used it for or you see out there from your perspective?
Yeah. So, the way that we're looking at it, so we're obviously focused on the clients within the utilities and municipalities, right? So basically roads, highways, pipelines, those types of things, and then the utility side of it. So where we see it, like I talked about before, was that using, really what we see it evolving to is being able to capture the data and then developing and working to get more of the machine learning auto extraction tools.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we see this thing is really going. And it's not just the high definition scanning, it's also the high resolution imagery as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're able to generate a point cloud from the imagery. I mean,
Yep.
there's kind of two, as there's kind of two, like they're kind of one and the same, but there's two different schools of thought, right? And you're using terrestrial photogrammetry, you do the same kind of registration and getting high level of accuracy. And and then how you store in those images, and then the, then you've got the scan LiDAR data as well. So, we see using both of them, using kind of the same, as the machine learning's evolving.
Yeah.
We haven't done a whole lot of development. We've kind of dabbled with, it's it's pretty challenging. And
Sure.
but I think there's a lot of, I think with, just looking a little bit outside the box, that there is probably a lot of opportunity that, probably the guy should go and source code if you want to do some machine learning modules that, that probably isn't that expensive, that,
Mm-hmm.
as you kind of go more on the global market, to have somebody write some code for you to say, hey, I want to be able to extract
Yeah.
mailboxes, something like that, right? And so I see it. That's the way I see it going. That's where we're kind of focused as well. Is that let's get the data captured, let's do the extraction, let's be mindful of, let's be on the the leading edge of this thing, hopefully not the bloody edge of it,
Yeah.
so we can develop it. So that's what
Yeah. What would you say your main challenges would be currently within using aerial and the scanning side? And I think you've already touched on part of it being the extraction and use of the data, maybe, and a lot of people even say data size. What other challenges do you see?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on the big ones, right? So I mean, so if you're talking about drone technology, so images take up a lot of space.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a challenge in itself. We're internet speed and kind of storage and cloud storage, everything else. I mean, it all does factor together, and it does have a cost associated with it. And so how you kind of use and archive, and so there's a challenge on that side of it. Drones, whether you can fly one or not because of restricted airspace, right? That is a limitation, and there's a lot of legislation underfoot that can maybe ratchet down, we might restrict it more than free it up because of the other things that are coming online. So something to kind of track, be aware of. The terrestrial photogrammetry, I really don't see a whole lot of limitations other than size, transfer rate.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest limitations we have, quite frankly, is just training staff and getting them so that they're comfortable using it, and that we can get it to a point that the more qualified staff is freed up so that they can do more kind of a QA/QC review and help kind of get things out. So
yeah.
I don't know if I really answered the question on that one, but it's just
I mean, I think out of everybody we talk to, it's kind of universal. It's what you do with the data, and kind of there's still just some difficulty there of, once you capture it, how do you make it back into something that's usable? We see that as one of the big struggles. And then data.
One of the things I'll say that we're also doing, when we're actually engaged in a process right now, is that we spun up in the Azure cloud, we spun up a virtual desktop machine, right? So we've got that spec. So we're actually working on it right now to go through to say, okay, because what we're finding is that the vision we have when we started this company is like, okay, I don't want to go with the traditional server, right? We have one of our partners, Joe Hicks, works out of his home in Colorado, mm-hmm. right? So we said, okay, we want to be on the cloud. That's where we know that's the direction it's going in. That's where we need to be. It's not as easy. You can say that's what you want to do, but it's not that easy. I'm sure you find as well. Mm-hmm. So we do have an IT company we're working with that's helping us to kind of visualize, see how it's going to work, right? So the idea, we can see like where there's an opportunity, because we're collecting so much data that that if we can download that, process it, download it into cloud, and process it in the cloud, and then mm-hmm. extract out pieces out of it. That's probably going to be the best workflow, as opposed to trying to transfer it across, get it to a physical server. Oh, hey, can you try? Yeah, VPN is not an option, right? I mean, it's not for processing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an area for improvement, is the data size, the transfer of it. I think a lot of people have talked about virtual servers and cloud processing, and I've not seen a whole lot of people implement it yet. So I think that's still that. Let's see what we could do with it. It would be awesome.
So it's expensive, right? And the most expensive part of it is the data storage, right? Because these data sets are collected. It doesn't take much to get to a terabyte.
Yeah, no.
Right. And so how do you, and then we have, I mean, that's the thing with the data, right? So you collect the data, right? And then, well, they're like, hey, you got the data, right? Then you can resell that data. Okay, that's all good and great, but you're also going to pay a fortune trying to store it.
Yeah.
Then you got to move to cold storage. I mean, so that's going to be the conundrum, right? To solve is that, and we talked about this when I was in college 20, 25, 30 years ago, that the math, like for LiDAR, right? Well, I mean, LiDAR is predicated off of, I mean, it's been able to measure measure light, right, in the way that it's set up for quite some time. They've had the formulas, they did,
Yeah.
and so the math has been there. It's just the ability to have the instruments that can do it, right? And then that was one component of it. And then once the instruments could, kind of measure it some fashion, I was like, well, how do you get it to something they can use, right? So you start looking at these massive, LiDAR models, right? There wasn't any CAD software that could ingest it, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of our most recent jobs, we did about 1,800 laser scan setups, and by the time we're getting those saved and imported and processed out, I mean, we're a couple terabytes of data. And even though that's a big bulk of our work is capturing data, processing it, modeling it, drafting it for people. Even with the computers we have, it's so easy that, well, dang, how do you process all of those when you're running off of SSDs that have 2 or 3 or 4 terabytes? Like one project could take up your entire computer space. So it goes from the internal hardware to then the transfer of it to then the modeling or the processing of it. Data size and managing that is such a big one. I'm hopeful that they come out with some breakthrough in a way to compress it without losing the quality and just the data size itself being smaller.
Well, the answer is going to be the cloud, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be developing cost effective where storage increases, whether it's still the SSD technology, right? There hasn't been a quantum shift in that. So just in the ability to have larger storage on smaller devices, I think that continues to happen. But I think that's where the solution is going to be, right? So, and then probably an opportunity. There are companies out there that have, then many of them, right? That's basically the setup so that you load your geospatial data, your images and your LiDAR into their system, and then use that as to in the cloud, right, to visualize and process your data. So but it's expensive.
Yep. What you have any other far-fetched futuristic visions, things you want to see change or improve, or whether it's within the technologies we already have, or maybe it's even within like virtual reality or augmented or something that would tie into the work you guys do? Any ideas there?
Look at my futuristic device here. It's really kind of everything that we're talking about, Matt. I mean, I look at that, like you're collecting this data, and it's, the ability to basically extract that data out and put it in a useful form that these different, like what they can say, whether it's in architecture, design, general public can use and ingest, and I just see that, as we continue to progress in that way, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. But I think that, to me, probably the biggest thing that we hit on it before is it's training. I think the biggest opportunity, like we really want to, think about what's the future look like and how are we going to create the future? Well, you a little bit more than me, right, are going to have more stake in creating the future. But more so than that, it's going to be, our kids are really going to create this future moving forward. We're kind of setting the table for it. So to me, that's really what we need to focus on, is bringing on that next generation, finding ways that we can foster to gain interest and have them help carry it forward and have them visualize it. I mean, I think one of the things about having kids that, that you do as a parent, you do wind up seeing the world a little bit through their eyes because you're so closely connected to them, right? And you see how they're connected with social media and video games and just how they interact and how they deal with things. And that's what the future is going to look like, is how we ingest these products that we're creating to help guide that forward.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting. I picture cities being completely mapped out, and you tie in the gaming aspect, which people are doing. I mean, gaming engines are creating architecture, engineering, construction divisions, gaming and creating those AEC divisions to pursue visualization and being able to integrate this new data. I think in the future, you're going to be able to put on some VR goggles and walk through actual measured city data, like a super glorified Google Earth, with things you can actually go extract, even to the point of measurements and things like that on a more global level. But I think we're still a ways out. Well, any other topics you want to specifically hit on?
Well, it's kind of funny because I mean, I know the purpose of this podcast is I am a licensed land surveyor. But I think it's interesting like how we kind of develop. I went to school and got my degree in surveying, got a license, but I definitely developed a lot of interest with business.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really what propelled me into starting my own business is really just looking at kind of the way things are set up and the way they worked and the way they didn't work.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the one thing I really saw that was trending and has been trending for quite some time is that there's this emphasis on profit first and the client is number one. That's we focus on that, and everything else kind of follows that beyond that. And one of the things that really didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because we are not widgets, we are consultants, we're technical professionals, and so in order for it to generate profit or a client to be happy, it takes a bunch of people being happy and engaged to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I really, and this is something that's just always been kind of rattling around. I saw it in the Army. I saw when, had good leaders and how really transformative it was. But quite frankly, I probably learned a lot more from the multitude of bad leaders I had that would just try to hide behind the rank and demand and blindlessly pursue something without creating a vision. And so, I what really inspired me to go into business and that move me in this direction was say, I think the industry has it wrong for the most part, that what we need to do, and I hit on the training aspect of it, is that, we really need to foster and develop a engaged team, that wants to be a part of what we're doing. And then at that point, then we have something to sell to our clients, and then we can have happy clients. And then when we have happy clients, guess what? We make money.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, congratulations on starting your business. It's
great timing, by the way.
Yeah. Just go ahead and start it and then shut down for a while.
A little pandemic thing, yeah.
But hey, what a way to launch your business, right? I mean, if you can make it through this, in the beginning, and your team is pulled together and everyone can stay encouraged, then how much better can things be when, economy opens back up and projects are running again? It'll make future downsides look minuscule, I think. Like slow projects will not feel that slow anymore after what everybody's going through right now.
Well, I think what life always does is it constantly gives us perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And when with that adversity, I mean, the way we're wired as human beings, unfortunately, unless we experience some physical or mental pain, we don't make change, right? Mm-hmm. Things are easy, why change? But adversity does provide, gives us kind of character and flavor for what it is that we do.
Yeah.
I look at, to me, I guess I just look at, I mean, you say you could hide in the corner and succumb to fear if you want to do that. But the reality is that, what if this all crashes? Well, we're all screwed, right? I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what the purpose is of wasting time on that. What we have to do is we have to focus on, okay, where's the next opportunity? All right, what can I do? And I know one of the things that, we talked about earlier before the call was, one of the things that we're focused on is that it's getting our training together. We have some initiatives internally that we want to get squared away. And if we have a little bit of time, let's focus on getting that part of it done instead of just worrying about what's the next thing that's going to come along. And so, I'm optimistic for the future, and I'm confident for this business. And I look forward to, partnering with, many other companies and something that we like doing as well is, we see an opportunity come up that's, I guess I don't look at any pursuit as being too large for us, right? I see that, there is a greater community that we have with other technical professionals, other entrepreneurs that we can partner with when an opportunity comes up and get the work done.
Yep.
The client gets a quality product. We leverage our technical capabilities and our experience and our relationships, right, to deliver those products. And so I don't feel limited by the size of our company. I don't feel limited by opportunities out there. I don't have those fears.
And I get asked about that all the time. Obviously we have a land surveying division, we have a laser scanning division, we do processing of data, and then I'm inviting all these people on who do exactly what we do. And people are like, well, why are you going to do that? Why are you going to give away your best secrets? Why are you going to introduce them to your clients? And I always have the same answer. we don't have any competitors, because from day one of starting our business, our competitors were our clients, because we have fostered that in our company. We've fostered open and discussion and being trustworthy with our clients and being, working for the same end goal. We want to make the client happy. We don't mind if we work through another survey firm or through another scanning company or help just do a portion of the project. People will bring us in, they might go out and scan something and we didn't get to do the field work, but then they say, hey, we need help registering it. Okay, we'll just register your data and give it back. We aren't going to say, oh, well, now we know who their client is, let's go behind their back and pursue this opportunity. We're here as a support. We just see ourselves as a support company to everybody. So even you guys are down in Southern California. We're doing land surveying work. You guys are doing land surveying work. But at the same time, we've built a relationship. There is so much more opportunity when you open your mind to being collaborative and working with other firms than if you try to stay locked into yourself and not talk and not share and not be open.
Yeah. Well, I think that's key. I mean, it's not in my nature, but I've definitely experienced it from working for big companies and small companies, and a recent experience working for a small company that ownership was just paranoid, fearful of everybody else. Everybody was a threat. Try to create a team and bring us on board. It was treated just as, what are you doing? You're giving away our secrets. And there's no secrets. The fear that you have about, are they going to lose something, or let them in, they're going to take over. You need to have, I think, more confidence with what is it you're doing. And, if you're committed to your craft and committed to the service that you're providing, the right clients will come into alignment. Some are going to come, some are going to leave, and some are going to come online. Sure. But, to sit there and clutch your pearls and be fearful of everybody that's around you, you're the saying goes, number one, or number one isn't talk about number two and all this other kind of stuff. But the reality is that, we talk about shortage of people, the challenge with the technologies. You could be God's gift to surveying, be the best surveyor on the planet, and guess what? You're not going to be the expert on every aspect of it.
Yep. And
you're not going to have enough time to get everything done, even if you're that person. And so, so much more that we can get done collaboratively. And I say, like you said, I don't view everybody as my competition. Yeah, we may be competing head to head on some pursuits on RFP, whatever, but then we may partner on the next one, right? Mm-hmm. So,
yep. Unless you're the company that, says no, we're just competitors, then you can always look at that. I mean, it's funny. We've run into scenarios because we're so open and collaborative. We've been contacted by multiple companies that were bidding on the same project, and ultimately, and I know there's certain times that you can't be on multiple teams and things, but there's a lot of times that you can end up being involved one way or another if you're open to it. And just keeping that relationship there. And honestly, partially for us, we see this on a mass scale in the technology side, in laser scanning, in drone, we run into a lot of companies who are just hearing about laser scanning for the first time. They don't even know, like they ask us if we manufacture it, and we're like, no, this is like, there's technology out there. There's other service providers. We're not the only person on earth. And part of the problem is you get clients, big companies who have sites all over the country, and they want to adopt new technologies, but they also think it's not going to work. We can't get this one firm out of Louisiana or Texas to go to every single site. Our goal is like, hey, you even using this podcast as saying, here's awareness of there's more people out there. Let's put together a process to help, even on like a program management type side of, if you've got all these sites that need to be done, guess what? We know people in almost every every state, even down to certain cities within states. We could help you accomplish projects in a way that's affordable, making sure it's the right type of technology, using someone local, cutting down the travel, because there's a lot of times that I think these technologies could be used, but some of those reasons are holding back the adoption.
Yeah. Well, there's a greater good too. I mean, look outside of what we're doing now. Look at the COVID-19. Look at what's going on with Operation Warp Speed, right? So now you have these big pharmaceutical companies and are joining forces, right, in pursuit of a common good. Now the whoever gets there's a huge payoff, right? To get
Sure.
but they're combining, they're combining with all kinds of people that were competitors to make sure they can hit manufacturing and sharing knowledge, right? I mean, and so it's happening, it's happening at a higher level. And I think that you think like when let's say when they develop the vaccine, is that kind of that collaborative environment going to go away? Probably not. It's going to change the way those companies operate. I think the way you look at what we're having to deal with remote working and everything else, I mean, this has accelerated technology of kind of the way things are going anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to go back to normal. Well, it doesn't. That's not the way things develop. Some stuff will revert back the way it was before, but we're going to change the way that we operate. There's going to be a lot less time flying around and kind of meeting face to face. There's going to be a lot more of this kind of stuff that we're going to be doing, and much more acceptable of it.
Yeah, I think much more acceptable on the virtual meetings, and even in the all this stuff we're talking about. I mean, all the technologies, the imagery, we've seen an increase in that because of the coronavirus, because people can't travel. People want to stay, safe and stay home. And so we've had people reach out and say, look, we're a scanning company, but we're on the East Coast. And we were supposed to be on the West Coast doing this job. Do you know anybody? And it's immediately brought this network that we've built, to light and saying, look, we can help you guys. If you have a project right now that still needs to be done and it needs scanning on it, or it needs drone work or a survey, we know so many people across the country because we've been building this network out. Now's the perfect time. Let's help you guys connect with the right people. Let's help projects still get captured and you can utilize this data, virtual tours, drone imagery. You can visit the whole site. You can measure from it. You can do all these things from your home computer, from your virtual office. So there's so much opportunity that's being created even in the midst of a pandemic for certain industries. It's just about identifying those and making that shift to say, maybe the company we had is completely under and all of our work's gone. Well, maybe you can try to shift and take on some of this new work, or at least put it as an add-on, and just find a way to integrate some of this.
Well, provide value, right? I mean, your focus is always providing value. That's what you're asking yourself, and everybody else on your team is focused on providing value, right? I hearken this back to, it doesn't matter what the client pays us for it every single time. Rework sucks. We all hate it, right? Because we know it's wrong. We know it is avoidable, and we know that even though we're getting paid for it, it's a diminishing returns. It will, they'll eventually get tired of paying us because they'll have to admit that we don't know what we're doing, and that gets embarrassing, right? But so we all hate that anyway, right? So if everybody's focused on, am I providing value? Like if you look at any opportunity that comes up, and it's the COVID-19 obviously is having a dramatic impact on everybody, right? And we do need to get the economy going as best as we can, right? We need to get people back to work and do it safely, and we feed in with that as well, right? So how can we help in that process? How can we bring our network together? How can we leverage our technologies and like I said, have the foresight when you put together a reality capture network was, look, I just want to talk about these things, right? Because one of the things you're getting is that a lot of things happen via osmosis, but by expanding your network, you're talking, but you're listening a lot more than you're talking, so you're learning a lot. And I personally find like I get a ton of value out of these types of things because, and that's one of the things too about being as isolated as we are right now. I mean, I'm kind of starved for it. I mean, I'm a social critter, as you know, and so I really enjoy having this kind of interactions. And what I used to always get kind of more so when you go around meeting people face to face, and obviously you're going to meet your clients, you're find what's kind of keeping them awake at night. You're getting a feel for, what direction they think. The questions you're asking me about, where they think things are going. Your clients, your friends will tell you the same thing, right? So these things are all, rattling around your nugget, formulating. Okay, what do I think the next move is, and what can I do? And so, this is good.
Yeah, and in fact, even on that note, I mean, like you said, so many people are stuck at home. So many people are not interacting with other people, and it's so important. And there's people that really struggle in a time of isolation, and so encouraging people to get on and do a FaceTime, whether it's calling someone on your phone or reaching out or doing a WebEx or doing a Zoom meeting, getting together with people even virtually is so much better than not, and kind of cutting communication. So definitely recommend that for people that are out there that are in that scenario.
Yeah, I mean, we're social critters, and it's going to be a challenge of the technology generation about how do we maintain that social connection and keep you from isolation. That's going to be the challenge. That you talk about VR and everything else. How does that technology feed into that? We can kind of maintain. I mean, we're not going to, take, however millions of years of evolution to get to the point we're at now to say, technology going to flip on a dime or all of a sudden it can be antisocial. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, I agree. Well, man, I think we've covered a lot, and I hope that whoever ends up watching or listening got some value out of it, talking about business, talking about, ways we're implementing technology through different industries, the land surveying profession. I think we hit a lot. I really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, yeah. For those who are watching, and this is a COVID cut right here. This is
there you go.
Cut, but, sorry for that.
I think we're all in the same boat.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, Matt. It's really good talking to you about this, and do appreciate the camaraderie. And if anybody wants to ping me or have any conversations about what comes up here, feel free to contact me. I think my contact will be on here as well, and be happy to talk to you about any of these subjects. So
yeah, we're always happy to share links and information. We're really big on LinkedIn, is where we do most of our posting. We'll have the video up on our website. We'll have some snippets up on LinkedIn, and then we'll also provide your guys' URL. So anybody that wants to connect is more than happy to.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Alrighty. Well, thank you again for your time. Hopefully, when things become unlocked, we'll get together again. We'll come have dinner with you out in California.
Well, yeah. Come here with the taxes.
There you go. Or wait, maybe you should come visit.
Exactly. Yeah. That sounds better to me. I'll take the RV up there. I'm taking a trip of it.
Perfect. Just let me know.
All right.
We'll talk to you again soon. Have a good one.
Reality Capture Network, bringing the future to you.